we talking about practice. Not a game. We talking about practice.
Now, back to the After Practice podcast with Lake Lewis.
Welcome to another episode of the After Practice podcast. I'm Lake Lewis, and I'm sitting right here at Commanders Park. And the Commanders, folks, yes, there's another training camp practice today out here. It's extremely hot, and today you saw a team that really looked like they were having a tough time in practice. There were several moments where you could tell that Eric Bieniemy's offense was getting frustrated, a lot of drop balls. For my money, this probably was I would probably say the worst practice Sam Howell's had so far in training camp. So it was just one of those mental mistake type of days. After practice, I talked with Eric Bieniemy, literally one-on-one, and, he made it known that they struggled. His exact words were they got their ass kicked today, and that was a team that struggled to get things generated. But as he said himself, he does see some progress, especially in the offensive line, a unit that, listen, they're getting besieged right now from the defensive side of the ball, and it did continue today as well. They're probably going to have to look at maybe some different rotations and shuffle some things along if this continues to play itself out the way it has been. But Eric Bieniemy said himself, we talked a little bit about, the game over the weekend against the Browns, and, it was something that he said that he wanted to see on Thursday. He wanted to see a unit that battled, and he saw that. He said they started off really slow, first two drives. He said, but what did they do? And that's the question he posed to me. What did they do? And he said they battled. So he was happy to see that they didn't give up and they kept going. But again, this is an offensive line right now that's struggling quite a bit. And today, like I said, to compound things, tight ends, Cole Turner, not to name individual players, but just so you know what's going on, Cole Turner, Dak Milne, a lot of guys had some drop balls out there today, a whole lot of balls that were dropped, and you can just tell it was a concentration thing. And I think for this team, these are the dog days you have to fight through. These are the days that you have to get through if you're going to be a playoff caliber team. You've got to fight through these mental blocks because, let's face it, this is the team that over the past several years have melted down the stretch. They've struggled when they've had opportunities to win games that they should have won in order to make the playoffs. So it starts here in training camp. It starts in these dog days of August where you finally feel like, we've been so lucky with the weather, but now you're feeling it. Yesterday was hot. Today, another typical DC, region summer day. It's just hot. There's no getting around it. And again, I think that kind of aided into today some of the mental lapse. Guys that, had decent days. Emmanuel Forbes, the rookie, really made his presence felt today. Had a really good day, broke up several passes, dropped a would-be interception that maybe in the regular season you make that play. But the fact that he's near the ball on every single play, and he just seems to be a technique guy, like I mentioned, on my last pod. He's a technique guy, but his technique is improving. His eye recognition of things that are going on are starting to get better as well. And when you practice against a Terry McLaurin or Jahan Dotson or Curtis Samuel, De'Ami Brown having another good camp, when you practice against those four receivers, your game can't help but elevate. So I think for, Emmanuel Forbes, these are things that are going to make him a better player, make him more, tailor-made and ready when the regular season comes around. Other guys that had some moments today that stood out. I think Chris Rodriguez continues to play well, and he's a guy that runs the ball real hard, and I think he's a guy that they're going to take a good look at against Baltimore, against this Ravens defense on Monday night, because I think they know what they have in Antonio Gibson, of course, and then of course Brian Robinson, their starter. But I think this kid Chris Rodriguez, you look at him and you think he's just a sledgehammer, but he's a guy that can get the ball to the outside as well, and he shows really nice burst. And obviously he's a power runner. So I just think he gives this offense another element that they can count on. So he's continuing to develop, started kind of slow, I think, in camp, but he's starting to really pick it up now. And he looks like a nice young prospect for this football team. De'Ami Brown, what can you say? To me, he's had the best camp out of anybody out here on this field. And he's continuing to blossom. And he had a couple nice plays today, and he's showing that speed, that he has a dangerous speed that if he can get the ball in open space, this guy could be dynamic. So you see these things. One of the things that I was talking about today, I was out with my friend Kurt Menefee. Everyone knows him from Fox. We were together pretty much the whole practice, just chopping it up and talking. And he said it himself. This team has talent. He's like, "What do you think?" And I'm like, "They do. They have a lot of talent, but they just have to put it together." That's what Eric Bieniemy's been saying for the longest time. That's what we heard for years on the defensive side of the ball with Jack Del Rio, is that, yes, the defense has talent, but they just had to put it together. You heard Daron Payne earlier in training camp say that it took him a couple years to really figure out the defense and where he needed to be and his spacing out on the line, and now he knows what he's supposed to do, so he can just go out and play football. And I think that that's what we're starting to see now as a whole. This is a team that has young talent. Guys needed to know where they fit in the NFL. And I think now guys are starting to figure it out, albeit a new system. We know Eric Bieniemy has a new system. So if you're a Terry McLaurin or, Curtis Samuel, De'Ami Brown, heck, even Sam Howell, who just had his second start ever in the NFL in a preseason game. So I think we're starting to see that guys are starting to know what they can do talent-wise, what they can do on the field. And that bodes well for this team. The guys asked me, what did I think? I said, I think this is a 10-win football team. I really do believe that this team can win 10 games just because you have an adequate play caller now, and Eric Bieniemy is going to bring a more modern approach. You have a young quarterback that I think is just an upgrade at the position, and that's not to knock Taylor Heineke or Carson Wentz, but I think it's a sheer upgrade for this football team. And I think that as long as Sam Howell can stand upright and have a pocket to pass out of, he can do some special things with the talent base around him, the receivers, the running backs, the tight ends. Let me give you a little heads up on the tight ends today. They struggled. They flat out did. To me, from my money, this was the worst practice I saw the tight ends have. From a sheer route running, catching the football, they dropped a lot of balls today. I think everybody did. And it compounded itself, and it showed. And you saw some guys hanging their head because they literally, you could tell, were just out of sorts. So I don't know if it's the heat again. I'm not sure, but whatever it is, they've got to shore it up because you travel to Baltimore for the next 2 days and you go up against the Ravens. And what's short of me is spirited practices. We've seen what's happened in the past when Washington, whether it was the Commanders or rather the Redskins, when they've gone up against other teams and, practices against each other. We saw it against the Jets. We saw it against the Patriots. And, of course, everyone remembers the Houston fiasco when they came to Richmond. So now you get a chance to do it again against your backyard neighbor, heated rivalry, maybe not an NFC East rivalry, but it's definitely a bragging rights rivalry in the region. And these guys are going to go at it. They're going to knock some heads, and we'll give you updates as far as what's going on in Baltimore. As always, folks, you can follow me on Lake Lewis on Twitter, Lake Lewis Jr. on Instagram and Facebook, and on Threads. And then you can go to sportsjourney.com for more information. Check it out. Good friend Serge, the shooter, is doing some great job with some photography. And we have that on sportsjourney.com on social media. So you'll see a lot more of that stuff popping up. And of course, the daily podcast. And we've got a really good announcement as far as another platform where you'll be able to hear it and interact live with us during the podcast. So if you're a Commander supporter, you definitely want to check the platform out. We'll give you that in the next day or two. I got to make sure I sign some ink first. But it'll be a really nice setup. And then also a local live, meet and greet broadcast out here in the Loudoun County, Fairfax County area. So lots of stuff going on, my friends. And as always, just appreciate the support as you always have given me. Trying to get this in before, the grounds crew behind me, the air, planes flying over because we're near the airport here at Commander Center. So again, appreciate everybody for taking the time to check this out. Have a good one.